Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this virtual event organised by Slow Food, discussing the common agricultural policy, keeping the ambition high in Europe. My name is Aminda Lee. I'm a British-Italian journalist and moderator, former BBC, now living and working out of Rome, where the weather today is glorious. I've been involved in a number of events about Europe's agricultural and food policies, so I'm honoured and delighted to be the moderator of this virtual conference today, which is being recorded and live streamed on Slow Food social media channels. It's wonderful that so many people from around Europe are logging on to follow this event this morning. Just over a month ago, the European Parliament adopted the key points of a proposed reform of the Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP. The ball is now in the court of member states, who have to draw up national strategy plans. Civil society and environmental organisations, including Slow Food, believe more must be done to make sure these national plans meet the environmental and social ambitions of the EU Green Deal. And we'll be discussing more about all of this today with a focus on Germany and Italy. I'll explain how the next 90 minutes will go in a moment and introduce you to our speakers. But before, I have some practical information for you. Most important, we have interpretation available for you today in English and Italian. Just click on the globe logo at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and you can select English for English, which is fairly straightforward. And the trick one is that if you want to listen in Italian, you have to click on Korean. For this webinar, your cameras and mics will be muted, but you can send in questions through the Q&A function on the platform at the bottom of the screen. You can also like other people's questions so we can see which ones are most popular and go to those first. We're also going to be running a couple of polls during the session, so please be ready to cast your votes when I launch them. There is also the chat option open to you to communicate between yourselves and also the speakers if you want, but please do make sure that the questions are sent in via the Q&A. If you have any technical problems, you can message the technical support team through the chat function. We also encourage you to use what's almost old technology now by sharing your thoughts on Twitter, and the hashtags are Terra Madre, Future of CAP, EU Farm to Fork with a 2, and please tag Slow Food HQ and Slow Food Europe. I'm now going to start by combining an explanation of how the event will run with introductions to everyone who's going to be participating. So the discussions are going to start with a scene setter from Marta Messa, the director of Slow Food Europe, who's joining us from Brussels today. Please say hello, Marta.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Minda.
Hi.
Hi.
Then we're going to be hearing the perspective of two small-scale organic farmers. First, logging in from near Munich in Germany, we have Amadei Bilezek-Geiger. Please say hello. Okay, and our second farmer is from Italy. To be precise, Roberta Bellitieri is on the line from Sicily. Their interventions are going to be followed by a short look at how different European policies on farming, food production and biodiversity fit together, or not, as the case may be. And that's going to be given to us by Francesco Sottile, an agronomist, professor and member of the Slow Food Italy's board. He's also logging in from Sicily. Unfortunately, Pierre-Marie Albert, who's on the programme, couldn't join us today, but we do have representations from other institutions. We're going to be hearing reactions from the European Commission, given by Chais Skillerhout, who is the head of unit for policy perspectives at the Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development, logging in from Brussels.
Good morning.
And he's going to be followed by a representative from Germany in the form of Gisela Gunther from the German Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture, who joins us by phone, which means we can only hear her voice and we can't see her image. And last but not least, we have Fabio Pierangeli from the Italian Ministry of Agriculture, who's on the line, I think, from Rome as well.
Good morning.
So after we've heard from the farmers who explain why agroecology is the way forward, we're going to have the reactions from the institutions, and there will be plenty of time for your questions too. And you may have also noticed on the screen that we have a speaker with a blank screen. This is Irene, who is from Husatronic. She's going to be producing a live visual summary of the proceedings today, which we will see developing on the screen as the event proceeds. Now, before we kick off, I would like to run a quick poll let's get the poll question on the screen and give you time to vote on it. The question I want to find out is, what is the priority of European agriculture? What should it be? Should it be, number one, supporting farmers? Number two, producing enough food? Number three, developing short supply chains? Or number four, protecting the environment? You have some time to vote. Just select the one that you want. And obviously we have it translated in Italian as well, so everyone can take part. Please keep voting. We'll give you a few more seconds. I imagine it's actually quite a difficult choice, rather like the choices that farmers and policymakers have to make. I reckon some of you may have even wanted all of the above option too. So let's keep the voting open for another couple of seconds. I don't know how many votes we've got coming in, but we'll soon see in a moment. Right, I think we'll stop that there. If we could close the polling and let's see what you've said. Okay, so we have 50% of people saying protecting the environment. The next one is developing short supply chains, 28%, and then supporting farmers. And finally, only 2% of you said producing enough food. Very interesting. I think many people would have thought that agriculture, it was important to produce enough food. Well, I think I'd like to close the poll now, and we'll move on straight to our first speaker and maybe get some reactions from her about the results of those polls. So to start our discussions today, I'd like to now hand over to Marta Messa at Slow Food Europe.
Thank you so much, Aminda, and hello from Brussels, where we're also having a glorious day outside, unexpectedly maybe. So, well, an interesting poll, and of course, maybe many respondents would have wanted to pick more than one option. And this was actually one of the discussions we had in the last few years in our advocacy work, trying to have an interaction with the European institutions, really saying, is the common agricultural policy, this policy that is spending 35% this year of the total European Union budget, is it meeting the right objectives? Is it still fit for purpose? It was devised many years ago, but things have changed in the meantime. Is it still working for the conditions we're facing nowadays? Before I go a bit more into, indeed, the common agricultural policy and where we are at today, and hence the importance of this conversation, just a few words. For those of you who do not know Slow Food, it's a global movement. It was born 30 years ago. We're active in over 150 countries worldwide. And really our goal is to promote the right of everyone to food that is good for themselves, for those who grow it, and for the environment. We have many different projects globally, and indeed it is a pleasure to have on our call today Amadei and Roberta, because they're two representatives of the many farmers we work with. And as you mentioned, Aminda, the key word here is agroecology. So a kind of not just farming, it's really about the food system and the food local communities we're building, where it's farmers and citizens coming together to develop local food systems that nourish the environment, nourish families and local communities, and give fair returns also to the farmers, so nourish also the farming community. And whilst we have this 30 years long experience working with farmers, and again, it's really nice to be able to hear them directly from Amadei and Roberta, there is also now a growing body of evidence showing that agroecological food systems indeed capture carbon dioxide, they help fight climate change, they help feed local biodiversity. And in our specific case of our projects, we're particularly focusing on cultivating biodiversity. So it's about the diversity of breeds and of vegetable varieties, besides, of course, also the biodiversity of ecosystems and insects and pollinators and everything that is part of ecosystems. So again, there is also this growing body of evidence showing that agroecological food systems are the solution. And in that respect, we were very pleased to read in the Farm to Fork strategy, which is one of the key documents of the European Green Deal, agroecology being mentioned. And it was high time, because if you look, for instance, at what has been done by other institutions like the Food and Agriculture Organization, they have the 10 principles for agroecology. It is a concept that they have been working on for a longer time. So it was a high time that also at the European level, we were catching up on that work. And really the importance of the Farm to Fork strategy and the biodiversity strategy, which is the other part of the Green Deal that was published in May this year, and that is specifically also relevant to the food sector. The importance of them is that they're laying out legislative measures to help in the transition towards more sustainable food systems in Europe and hopefully globally in the next 10 years. So very concrete proposals. Now, the Common Agricultural Policy, and probably we will repeat it through the meeting as CAP, or in Italian PAC. So bear with us if you're not familiar with this acronym. But the importance of the Common Agricultural Policy is that it is the one with the most resources in a way to implement these changes foreseen in the Green Deal. And at this very moment, we're basically in a phase where the European Commission, our national governments and the members of the European Parliament, rather representatives of the European Parliament, are gonna meet together and discuss to come to an agreement as to what this common agricultural policy really should look like. It's been a long negotiation process. And let me just again, use the chance to clarify for those who are not familiar with the decision-making processes in Brussels, because oftentimes we hear citizens, Brussels decided this, Brussels decided that. In fact, lots of the decisions made in Brussels depend on elected representatives that we citizens elect. So at the European level, you have the European Commission that prepares the proposals. These proposals are then discussed within the European Parliament, where there are indeed members elected by us citizens, and then by the Council of the European Union, where there are our national ministries. So again, and this is the importance of this conversation we have today, and I'm very pleased to have on the phone, on the call also representatives of the national and German government, because indeed also our governments have a lot to decide in this matter. We, as I mentioned, put a lot of pressure as Slow Food, but of course in collaboration with other organizations, to make sure that the common agriculture, first of all, that the farm to fork strategy is ambitious, and now we've been putting pressure to make sure that the common agricultural policy is aligned with the farm to fork strategy and the biodiversity strategy. And in this effort, we're not alone. We work with many other organizations, and specifically we're part of the Food Policy Coalition, which is a broad coalition bringing together different organizations from across Europe, coming from very many different angles, but pushing in the same direction for more coherent and sustainable food policies. And in this pressure making, we've been joined by the likes of Greta Thunberg, who joined a very active social media action just about a month ago, really putting pressure on the European Parliament to keep up the ambition on the common agricultural policy. Unluckily, that was not the case, but that hence again the importance of this meeting, because indeed, as Aminda mentioned, now our national governments are negotiating with or rather debating with the European Commission on the national strategic plans of the common agricultural policy. In other words, how does the common agricultural policy translate into concrete measures at national level? I think I've said more than enough, and I would just mention as a last thing, also the European Commission is pushing to maintain high the commitment of the farm to fork strategy and the biodiversity strategy. Science has clearly indicated, and now for a long time, that we have to act. We cannot go on with business as usual. I think agroecological farmers like Amadei and Roberta have a lot to share, and that can really be helpful and constructive in the transition towards more sustainable food systems. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marta, for setting the scene. Now, obviously, when we're talking about farming, it's important that we need to hear from the farmers first. So today we're going to have two small-scale farmers telling us their perspectives. And the first we're going to turn to is Amadei Billisgerger from Germany. He's the only organic farmer in his village, and he grows a very wide variety of plants and produce, especially with a view to encouraging and protecting biodiversity, for example, growing old cereals that are at risk of extinction. Amadei, also known as the organic farmer Mowgli, makes spelt and buckwheat pasta, has sheep, goats, guinea fowl, and 900 two-use chickens, which he cares for using methods he revived from his grandfather and great-grandfather's time. To tell us more, Amadei Billisgerger, it's over to you. Unmute your microphone, please.
Now I'm here. Yes.
Now you're there. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much, Aminda and Marta, for your introduction. First, I also want to start with a short introduction of myself and from my farm, what I'm doing here, and what is special about the farm. And after this, I have a wish to the new CAP, how it should be, in my opinion. So you heard my name already. It was almost right. It's spelled Billisberger, but it doesn't matter. Or how you said, organic farmer Mowgli. This is my nickname. I'm 39 years old, and I just run this organic farm in this small village called Moosinning, close to Munich, what you said before. And what I also want to say, what is important for me now, from my point of view, at the beginning of this year, I became a father of a beautiful daughter. She's 9 months now. And then you just see the life of another perspective. In like 2007, I restarted the farm from my father, which was run by conventional farmers till then, and I converted it into organic cultivation. And on our farm, we place importance on biodiversity a lot. I grow up to 15 different kinds of crops, like rice, spelt, oats, buckwheat, millet, lentils, beans. I have 6 different kinds of potatoes, and on 1 hectare, almost 100 different kinds of old vegetables. which I mainly sell to restaurants or organic shops in Munich. And I let produce flour, semolina, and pasta of all my grains. Then we have these 900 two-use chickens in our rolling chicken coop, which move from one place to the other one. We have sheep, some turkeys, guinea fowls, ducks, horses, cats, and a dog. And today I participate at this conference because I have a wish for the upcoming CAP. With the CAP we had the last years in Europe, small farms were closing and the big farms are getting bigger. The really big farms, especially in Germany and other parts of Europe, are the winners of this system. I don't understand why we European farmers receive a lot of subsidies from European Union just for the agricultural area we cultivate, and no matter what we grow or if we destroy the soil or if we make the soil better. To reduce or to multiply humus plays an enormous part on this planet. As we all know, at least I hope, humus is the answer or could be the answer of a lot of problems we have in this world. In our soil, in the first 10 to 15 centimeters of humus, there's more carbon stored than in all plants and trees on this world. What we need on our fields is more humus. What does it mean to have more humus on the field? More humus means better structure of the soil, less water and wind erosions, less floodings, bigger yields. What means bigger yields? That means more food, more carbon stored in the soil, what means a better climate for our children and a better ground for farming family to survive from their farm, even small farmers. What can we farmers do to multiply humus? We can plant different kind of plants, not only wheat and corn, plant intercrops, keep animals on straw, compost the manure, more organic cultivation, what we need in Europe, support the microorganism by using less pesticide, which is a big theme I think we should also talk about. Drive on the field when it's dry with not so heavy machines, no plowing before winter with no intercrop. So you see there are a lot of different kind of things what farmers can do. And now it's about the politicians how to change it. So my wish for the future CAP is to connect the European subsidies to the multiplication of humus and the construction of good, healthy soil. And I prepared something, what I did more often. So what I do have here, I hope you can see it, is good organic moss-inning soil. The structure is like small, is not hard, even if it has rained before. You see, this is a good soil. And when you have like one hand of good soil, there are living more microorganisms inside than humans on this planet. And our problem at the moment with this CAP, what we had the last years, we're about to destroy it. Yeah, that's shortly what I want to say. This is my opinion. There are for sure a lot of other things what we can talk about, what we should change. Not so much plastic, what we wear, organic cotton, blah, blah, blah. But I think this is too much. For me, the most important thing is soil, healthy soil, and to get more healthy soil for a lot of problems we have in this world.
Thank you very much indeed, Amadei. That very interesting. And the thing about soil, it's certainly an area that a lot of people forget about. And soil is incredibly important. And also for biodiversity itself, as you say, one handful of soil has more microorganisms in it than people on the planet, which makes you think. Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your ideas for the future of the CAP when we get to the discussions. But now it's time to turn to our next farmer, who's roughly 2,000 kilometers south of you, Amadei. Roberta Biliteri is in the village of Polizzi Generosa in the Madonia National Park in Sicily. She grows the Bada bean, a medium small round two-color bean that has been grown in the area for 2 centuries. And she also grows Polizzi Generosa peppers, both of which are slow food presidia, meaning that they support quality production at risk of extinction. Roberta uses sustainable techniques and is also reactivating traditional agricultural processes. Roberta, the screen is now yours.
Sì, buongiorno a tutti. Allora, qui il tempo non è proprio bello, insomma, è piuttosto velato. E il riferimento al tempo in realtà non è neanche casuale, tra qualche minuto capirete perché. Sono una produttrice, sono imprenditrice agricola, ho 45 anni, Polizia Generosa è nel cuore del Parco delle Madonie, quindi siamo in Sicilia. E sono 10 anni che ho deciso di dedicare la mia vita, il mio lavoro alla tutela della biodiversità, alla tutela della memoria, al costruire sviluppo. Ecco, sono parole chiave queste per me. Io non avevo un pregresso, non ho un'azienda agricola di riferimento o genitori o nonni che si occupassero di agricoltura. Però quando sono arrivata qua a Polizia Generosa avevo ben chiaro che il cibo fosse cultura. Infatti amo sempre definirmi come un'imprenditrice agricola che si occupa di agricoltura, perché comunque il cibo è legato alla memoria del territorio e della comunità e ne rappresenta in fondo anche un pezzo di storia, di anima. Avevo ben chiaro che desideravo fare un qualcosa che in realtà era molto ambizioso, perché desideravo e desidero fare qualcosa che comporta un cambiamento importante. Cioè, io mi occupo di agricoltura per cambiare il mondo e per farlo ho da sempre, sin dall'inizio, puntato sulla qualità. Allora, il punto essenziale e fondamentale della mia esperienza che vi racconto è questo. Chiaramente, per chi non conoscesse, dedicarsi alla coltivazione dei presidi slow food significa dedicarsi alla tutela della biodiversità e salvare specie a rischio di estinzione e comporta uno sforzo importante, anche legato alle dimensioni dell'impresa. L'essere una piccola impresa o le dimensioni di piccola impresa è una realtà di fatto e questo può essere un punto di forza e un punto di debolezza. Io ho beneficiato nell'ambito della vecchia programmazione dei fondi di sussidi europei, mi riferisco al collega. È stato un onere e un onore, un privilegio e anche una responsabilità. Perché è vero che i fondi europei ti danno la possibilità di acquisire macchinari piuttosto che non investire in attività e soprattutto sono fondamentali per chi parte da zero, per chi non ha un pregresso, non ha qualcosa di consolidato alle spalle. Ma è anche vero che è fondamentale saperli gestire ed è fondamentale, ed è questo il primo punto sul quale mi vorrei soffermare analogamente al collega, che la PAC e comunque la gestione dei fondi europei di sussidi non può esaurirsi con la mera erogazione di fondi. I piccoli imprenditori, i giovani agricoltori o i meno giovani che vogliono dedicarsi all'attività agricola con l'obiettivo appunto di migliorare la qualità della vita stessa, quindi non soltanto del suolo, non soltanto dei prodotti, non soltanto del cibo e dell'alimentazione. Hanno bisogno non soltanto di risorse economiche, viviamo in un mondo economico, comunque anche la competitività delle piccole imprese è messa a dura prova rispetto ai costi che si devono sostenere. Ma è fondamentale che nella strutturazione di una strategia agricola comune, per esempio, si ponga anche l'accento e l'attenzione sulla necessità di favorire e creare le reti e le sinergie tra i piccoli. Quindi non consideriamo che i piccoli sono custodi di biodiversità, custodi di qualità, fanno delle scelte importanti e fondamentali. È necessario favorire le reti tra loro, è necessario favorire le sinergie, gli scambi di esperienze piuttosto che di know-how anche con i grandi. E quindi la prima parola chiave sulla quale vorrei soffermare l'attenzione è quello della formazione. parlo di formazione e la associo al tutoring, al tutoraggio. È necessario che nell'ambito di una progettazione europea, quindi dell'assegnazione dei fondi, non si pensi soltanto che il progetto è finito e quindi va tutto bene nel momento in cui si pone l'ultima firma sull'ultimo documento. Affinché il processo sia sostenibile, affinché si parli davvero di sviluppo sostenibile, è necessario affiancare e mettere a disposizione e quindi promuovere l'acquisizione di competenze, l'acquisizione di expertise, l'acquisizione di conoscenze che poi possono anche facilitare le scelte in termini di appunto agricoltura biologica, agricoltura sostenibile, produzione di qualità, la possibilità di contrastare nel proprio piccolo un qualcosa che ci sta devastando, e mi riferisco ai cambiamenti climatici, la possibilità di fare rete e tra l'altro contrastare il degrado del suolo. Quindi il mio primo input, ecco, di riflessione rispetto a un pregresso, a un'esperienza di... Sorry? Ah, scusatemi, ho avuto un ritorno di traduzione, mi sono detto, pensavo fosse una domanda. Non mi dilungo per ora perché credo di avere messo forse troppi input, però la considerazione è questa: io sono una fiera e orgogliosa produttrice di 2 presidi slow food in una terra bellissima che amo e che voglio migliorare, un piccolo pezzo di un puzzle, e come tale credo che appunto il mettersi insieme e creare sinergie sia fondamentale. Grazie.
Thank you very much. It's interesting that you say the word jigsaw, because that also came to my mind, and it certainly is a thing where we have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's very inspirational to hear someone admit that they want to change the world, and it seems like you're certainly doing your part to do that. And most interesting, the idea about food is equal to culture. So I think there's plenty of ideas that hopefully people will be picking up on, and please do send in your questions via the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. We have plenty of time for questions afterwards, and if questions come in that you like them, please do like them so we can see which ones are most popular and we can go to those first. Now, we've heard about the reality on the ground. So how does this all tie into EU policies on agriculture, on food production, and on biodiversity, never mind on the Green Deal and climate change? And to put the pieces of this jigsaw together, we have Francesco Sottile. In his work as agronomist at the University of Palermo, he studies biodiversity preservation systems, low environmental impact agricultural models, and agroecology that we've already been hearing about quite a lot. And he also teaches biodiversity and quality of the agro-food system. So he's perfectly placed to help us join the dots and to create that puzzle of EU policy. Over to you, Francesco Sottile. Your microphone is still muted. There you are.
Okay. Grazie Aminda, grazie a tutti, è davvero un piacere essere qui oggi con voi, e sottolineerei subito all'inizio quanto sia importante per Slow Food il ruolo e la centralità degli agricoltori, e ciò si vede dal fatto che raramente un evento organizzato da Slow Food in Italia, ma anche all'estero, raramente non vede l'inizio della discussione proprio partendo dagli agricoltori. Questo è testimonianza di un'attenzione particolare al mondo degli agricoltori e dei piccoli agricoltori in particolare, proprio come attori principali di un modello di sviluppo che ci sta molto a cuore e che certamente riteniamo centrale in un'ottica di sviluppo sostenibile. 10.000 anni fa l'uomo ha iniziato a fare l'agricoltore e l'allevatore. per 10.000 anni le cose sono andate, diciamo, in modo abbastanza, direi, tra virgolette, equilibrato. Negli ultimi 60-70 anni l'uomo è stato capace di creare una catastrofe. Se oggi noi parliamo della esigenza di transizione ecologica, significa che negli ultimi 50-60 anni, o deriva dal fatto che negli ultimi 50-60 anni abbiamo agito a livello di agricoltura, di produzione agricola, in modo da mettere a repentaglio le risorse naturali, di mettere a repentaglio gli insetti, di mettere a repentaglio la biodiversità, di mettere a repentaglio tutto ciò che oggi è concretamente un modello agricolo che è considerato sostenibile. Allora oggi abbiamo bisogno di transizione ecologica. La transizione ecologica ne abbiamo bisogno per contrastare il cambiamento climatico, ma abbiamo bisogno di transizione ecologica in tutti i settori, lo dice il Green New Deal, lo ha sottolineato, lo ha messo in evidenza, e non è secondario il fatto che l'Unione Europea, che la Commissione Europea abbia mosso il primo passo verso la transizione ecologica, verso il sostegno alla transizione ecologica proprio da strategie che riguardano l'agricoltura. Allora, quello che a noi deve in questo momento diciamo, far riflettere è proprio ciò che ci ha portato a questa situazione. Probabilmente l'uomo ha pensato che attraverso la chimica, attraverso la genetica e attraverso la tecnologia avrebbe potuto dominare la produzione agricola. Ha tentato di farlo, lo ha sostenuto, lo ha portato avanti, determinando una situazione che oggi è al collasso. E noi abbiamo fortemente creduto e crediamo ancora oggi che attraverso gli ambiziosi obiettivi della Farm to Fork si possa costruire una PAC davvero coraggiosa, e nello stesso tempo possano nascere dei piani strategici nazionali che tengano conto di modelli agricoli che ciascun Stato membro deve analizzare per poter mettere a valore. Roberta ha parlato di puzzle. A me piace vedere l'agricoltura europea e l'agricoltura italiana come un mosaico fatto di tessere di dimensioni diverse, dove ci sono le tessere più grandi e ci sono le tessere più piccole, ma dove la tessera più piccola ha lo stesso valore di una tessera grande nel momento in cui noi si voglia completare il puzzle. Il puzzle è completo soltanto se tutti hanno la possibilità di giocare il proprio ruolo. Il puzzle è completo soltanto, questo mosaico si completa e diventa veramente, nella mia visione, quello straordinario paesaggio agrario tradizionale che caratterizza l'Italia e l'Europa. Diventa completo soltanto se tutti e soprattutto i tantissimi piccoli agricoltori possono mettere a valore la propria conoscenza, la propria competenza, il proprio trasporto nei confronti di un modello agricolo che possa fare la differenza. Amadea ha citato il suolo. Il suolo è l'origine di tutto. Senza suolo non si fa agricoltura. Senza suolo non si può pensare ad una produzione. C'è chi oggi vuole produrre senza suolo, ma produrre senza suolo oggi significa produrre senza territorio, produrre senza conoscenza, produrre senza cultura. Conservare la biodiversità del suolo, che è quella che noi chiamiamo la biodiversità invisibile, quella che non si vede ma che è quella che dà vita, diventa straordinariamente importante in una politica di conservazione del suolo. Allora, le politiche di conservazione del suolo che devono avere un grande valore nelle pianure, ma devono avere un grande valore anche nelle montagne, devono avere un grande valore in modo da connettere anche territori diversi, in modo da mettere a valore l'azione dei piccoli agricoltori in ogni territorio. Le politiche di conservazione del suolo, così come delle risorse naturali, suolo, acqua, insetti utili, biodiversità, diventano politiche che pagano, diventano politiche che restituiscono in un futuro non tanto lontano. Per questo noi abbiamo bisogno che i piani strategici nazionali investano in questo su questo virtuoso percorso verso la transizione ecologica. Oggi non possiamo più fare a meno di transizione ecologica. Anche la FAO ha sottolineato quanto la rivoluzione verde abbia messo e stia ancora oggi mettendo a repentaglio la base dell'agricoltura, cioè suolo attraverso la desertificazione, perdita di risorse idriche e perdita di biodiversità. Noi oggi attraverso l'agroecologia vogliamo riconnettere i territori, vogliamo creare quel substrato su cui attaccare poi tutte le piccole tessere del mosaico, perché quello diventa diciamo, un modo per creare continuità e per dare sviluppo e futuro alla nostra agricoltura. Grazie.
Thank you very much indeed, Francesco, and our farmers. And I don't know if you've been seeing, but the visual representation of what we're seeing is very much taking shape. The visual representation of our discussions done by Irene. And she's picked up on some of the things that I've also picked up on from your speech: the need to be courageous, to be brave, and obviously the idea that if we have a jigsaw, all pieces, whether big or small, are all part of the picture, and the picture will not be complete without all of them. And the fact that we really can't live without ecological transition. Don't forget, everyone, you can please tweet what you're hearing. Please share your thoughts on Twitter with the hashtags that I mentioned earlier. And you can, of course, send in questions. I see that someone already has. Thank you. Please do send in some more questions. We have time for those in a short while. Now, as we said at the beginning, we have representatives from the institutions listening in, and now it's time to hear what they think about what they've heard so far. So I'd like to start with the European Commission and Thijs Skilhaus. He's from the Directorate General of Agriculture and Rural Development, and he's been working on agricultural policy reform for more than 10 years. So can I ask you, what do you think about what you've heard from the farmers today?
Yeah, thanks, Aminda, and good morning to everyone. When you work in Brussels for 10 years on reform of the agricultural policy, that's a short period of time, because I think the word reform has been linked to the common agricultural policy forever, if you wish. There's always a new challenge to tackle, and I was struck by the poll at the beginning. Clearly, the focus, especially from those listening today, is on the environment, but obviously, supporting farmers was also valued as something important. Provision of food was felt less important, even though that is one of the founding reasons for having agricultural policy. I started my career actually in Brussels working for a member of the European Parliament who would always, whenever he spoke to farmers, quote that Joseph in Egypt started agricultural policy, you know, making sure there was food in the years when harvests were not abundant. So I think also this aspect should certainly not be underestimated. And it does show that throughout the times, the focus of agricultural policy changes, and it always needs to respond to the challenge of today. And I think that's why particularly I was actually very inspired also by the farmers that spoke today, because they really highlighted the challenges that we have today. I mean, the issue of soil, I think, is absolutely key. It's an area where we don't have a soil directive. We don't have big legislation in Brussels about soil, but we do have conditions that we link to receipt of agricultural subsidies that are linked to what we do with the soil. And the European Commission, in its proposals for reform of the common agricultural policy, is keen that those conditions are strengthened. So I think this issue of soil is tremendously important. It's also a focus of the European Commission in our research program. We believe that innovation in whatever form, from agroecology, the principles were already mentioned earlier today, to technology, for example, in the area of precision farming or other digital technologies. So a wide range of technologies should be made available And we believe that focus on improving quality of soil is absolutely key. And we've developed a soil mission to focus a lot of research investment in that area. Another aspect of soil that I had to think about when listening to Amadei and looking at his soil, I mean, I'm here in a room full of books, so I can't really compete with the soil, but one of the areas that we also want to focus on is carbon farming, bringing carbon into the soils, into agricultural land. Obviously, this has climate advantages, and that's one of the key reasons for doing it. But the nice thing of agricultural policy, and also the complexity of agricultural policy, is that we always have different focus, that we always have multiple objectives, I should say. So there's never a focus on only one thing. The very nature of agriculture is that we produce food, we make a living, we care for the environment, we care for the next generations in terms of our own families, but also in terms of the natural environment on which we need to build. So there's always so many aspects, and that is why why the discussions about agricultural policy are so complex. So maybe just to bridge to Roberta's focus on varieties, and especially on building knowledge. That is also one of the key aspects that we believe are necessary to deliver on the Green Deal and the farm to fork strategy. The Commission has basically launched a major plan for reforming the way we organize our society around environmental principles. And the big challenges in agriculture and food. We've moved now from saying we need an agriculture policy to saying we need an agriculture policy that is embedded in a larger food policy. And we should not look at just agriculture. We need to look at the whole food chain. And when you want to establish such a transformation, we need agricultural policy, and maybe later in this debate we'll get to the details of agricultural policy and what should be done and what shouldn't be done, and where we are in the negotiation process and all these things. But one of the things that we need to think about is that we have currently 6.1 beneficiaries of European subsidies, agricultural subsidies in Europe. That means 6.1 million farmers that we like to help to do things a bit differently. To change the way they farm, to make sure that the environmental outcomes are better. And subsidies are one thing, but we need to help them. We need to use extension services, information to help them make this change. So I think that is a key thing that links to the better story. I will stop. Yes, please.
Thank you very much indeed. It's good you've raised an awful lot of points there, and obviously from what you were saying about the need to have a multiple focus, I think our poll at the beginning should certainly have had an all of the above. Anyway, thank you for that. And now let's go and hear it from let's say, the member state perspective. We've got two member states represented in this conference today, Germany and Italy. Let's hear some reaction from Gisela Gunther. She's working on the National Strategic Plan for the Common Agricultural Policy in Germany. And she's joining us by the phone, which is why you won't see her on video, but we can certainly hear her well. Gisela Gunther, what's your reaction to what you've heard so far? I don't know if maybe your microphone is muted. Can you just check that? I don't know if it's just me or no one else can hear. No one else can hear her. Okay, all right. Well, we'll try and get her back on the line. I'm not getting any technical information that there's a problem. So what we'll do is we'll go first to Italy then. And so I'd like to hear from Fabio Pierangeli. He too is working on the Italian National Strategic Plan. Fabio, what do you think about what you've heard from our farmers and from the European Commission so far?
Buongiorno a tutti, grazie Aminda. Innanzitutto grazie per l'invito e per l'organizzazione di questo evento. Mi sentite? Solo per conferma. Mi sentite? Sì. Quindi dicevo, grazie per l'invito. Diciamo, questa tavola che mettete davanti è, diciamo, è esattamente la sfida che dobbiamo raccogliere nell'ambito del prossimo, del redigendo, diciamo, piano strategico. Le questioni non sono parecchio complesse. Innanzitutto mi viene da dire che questi obiettivi li raggiungiamo se le aziende agricole sono in buone condizioni. Credo che Roberta lo abbia stressato questo aspetto, no? La distribuzione degli aiuti. Allora, noi abbiamo degli obiettivi della PAC molto ambiziosi, che diventano sempre più ambiziosi, ed è giusto, perché diciamo, noi con la PAC andiamo a coprire oltre il 30% del bilancio comunitario. A fronte di questo chiediamo ai nostri agricoltori degli impegni importanti che diciamo, vediamo che sono anche pronti a farlo. La distribuzione degli aiuti a fronte di questo si basa su un ettaro, e questa cosa è un po' meno coerente laddove abbiamo obiettivi che è vero che si fanno sul terreno, ma non sono legati all'ettaro. Un ettaro non è uguale in tutti quanti i paesi, in un contesto così differenziato. Ora questo è un aspetto a parte che non entra diciamo nel dibattito di oggi, però visto che stiamo, cito Roberta, visto che siamo in un mondo economico, la distribuzione degli aiuti è importante. Ora, la soluzione che ha trovato finora l'Italia, secondo me, diciamo, forse non è la migliore, va superata, vanno affrontate diverse criticità, però è una delle questioni più importanti nell'ambito del piano strategico, qual è diciamo, la distribuzione degli aiuti per poter conseguire nel miglior modo possibile questi risultati. Parallelamente, tra l'altro, non è soltanto il piano strategico su cui diciamo, raggiungere questi obiettivi, ma ricordo che nell'ambito dei fondi del Recovery Fund, una partita molto importante era quella che richiamava prima Francesco Sottile relativamente alla transizione verde e digitale. Qui l'Italia, come sapete, è uno dei paesi che è stato più colpito dalla crisi Covid ed è uno dei paesi che riceve una dotazione molto importante, ma deve essere in grado di spenderla. E spenderla in tempi molto brevi. Noi su questo aspetto stiamo lavorando per redigere praticamente una strategia complementare tra piano strategico e Recovery Fund, puntando nell'ambito del Recovery Fund a grossi investimenti che altrimenti le risorse PAC non sarebbero in grado di fare, per due motivi. Uno, perché le risorse non sarebbero sufficienti. Due, perché serve anche un coordinamento. La politica agricola in Italia, così come in Germania, è delegata alle regioni e ai Länder, quindi fare un coordinamento non è sempre facile. Nell'ambito quindi del Recovery Fund stiamo puntando a transizione ecologica, all'efficientamento, all'economia circolare, in particolare nelle aree dove abbiamo grossi problemi di infiltrazione di nitrati e diciamo, utilizzando quindi una gestione degli effluenti verso le energie di biogas, biometano, per ridurre quindi la pressione sul suolo e le infiltrazioni. E l'altra è sulle energie rinnovabili. Su questo va specificato che uno dei costi, in base degli studi che abbiamo fatto con un centro di ricerca CREA, uno dei costi più importanti è quello dell'approvvigionamento energetico, copre circa il 20-30% dei costi variabili delle aziende. riuscire a renderle energeticamente meno dipendenti da input esterni aiuta l'azienda, aiuta l'ambiente, perché di solito sono emissioni, no? Diciamo carburanti fossili. Per quanto riguarda un altro aspetto che sollevava Roberta, che mi ha incuriosito, una rete di collegamento per migliorare, come dire, per divulgare le competenze. Questo è un aspetto molto importante. Su questo devo dire che riceveremo a breve le raccomandazioni della Commissione. Uno degli aspetti più stressati, ve lo anticipo, non è ancora pubblico, è quello di rafforzare il sistema AKIS, che si tratta proprio di un sistema per diciamo, mettere in condivisione le competenze, le conoscenze, collegare la ricerca con gli operatori, e su questo siamo fortemente invitati a risolvere la frammentazione del sistema italiano. Questo è molto importante, una sfida che dobbiamo raccogliere. Ora, diciamo, non sono un esperto, è uno degli elementi che sicuramente va sviluppato in maniera molto forte. L'altra questione è all'interno di filiere, alcuni anni fa sono stati inseriti dei coaching, ma su questo, diciamo, non c'è molta visibilità. È vero, diciamo, dire che bisogna stringere tra ricerca e agricoltura è facile, lo strumento ce l'abbiamo, realizzarlo non è affatto facile, ma dare evidenza a queste iniziative in maniera capillare, secondo me si può fare, così come è noto a tutti che ci sono i pagamenti della PAC, e bisognerebbe, diciamo, mettere in piedi nel modo così capillare informazioni che ci sono anche degli strumenti di formazione, e questi devono essere chiaramente sostenuti. Per ora mi taccio e spero di aver risposto almeno in parte alle sollecitazioni, che sono tante, e vi ringrazio.
Thank you very much, and we will be coming back, and there will be more questions and answers, and not just from our farmers, but also from the people who are watching. Now, I believe that we can now actually manage to hear Gisela Günther from the German Ministry, and she can tell us a little bit about what her reaction is to what she's been hearing so far.
Yeah, hello. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, thank you.
That's great. So from the German perspective, from the administration, I'd like to follow Chai's argumentation a bit. I think we have many objectives the CAP has to fulfill, and it's important to have a balanced approach to these different objectives. As you're probably aware, we have a wide field of objectives on a smart and diversified agricultural sector, also ensuring food security. This is perhaps not a topic that is so much up to date at the moment, but if you think in historic terms, without food we can't make a living. Then we have the second area that where large focus is on, also with the background of the Green Deal of the Commission on the environment and fighting climate action, which is where really things are at stake and where we have to get into action. And then we have a third big area that is strengthening the socio-economic fabrics of the rural areas. I think we all know our countrysides, and sometimes there's depopulation in the countryside, and there are other areas where things go fine, and it's really also a big aim of the CAP, and much money is also taken for the the objective to improve the conditions in the rural areas, especially with COVID-19. We perhaps also are become more aware that the living in the countryside is also of high value. So we really have to have a balanced approach here. And I would like to explain a bit the steps we are taking on national level to develop the CAP strategic plan. This is the framework for this is laid down in the draft regulation on the CAP strategic plan, and the first step, which we already have taken, is an analysis of the agricultural policy in the member state, where we analyze the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats to agriculture policy, and also taking into account all these three big objectives I mentioned. And we have discussed this so-called, the shortcut for this strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, as you might be aware, SWOT analysis. We have discussed this SWOT analysis with stakeholders also in an event at national level, and also we have had written inputs from stakeholders and improved the SWOT analysis. Then the second step that we have to take is a need assessment based on the SWOT analysis. What are the needs for the policies in the different areas to reach the aims I mentioned in the beginning? And here I'd like to come back to the input of Amadé on the importance of protecting soil. So in this needs assessment, we have broken down it by the specific objectives of the draft regulation, and there we have the specific objective to fight climate change. So in this needs assessment, for example, we say on the topic of humus that Amadé mentioned, that this humus and also green land where you have grazing cows and so on, this is really contributing to the reduction of greenhouse emissions, as you have the carbonate in the soil and you keep it in the soil, for example, with peatlands, and so it's similar constellation, and we have addressed this in our needs assessment. You can find these documents I mentioned, unfortunately only in German, but perhaps you can use Google Translate on the page of the internet page of our ministry also. And so this humus discussion comes in with the reduction of greenhouse emission, but also we have another environmental objective to foster the sustainable and efficient management of natural resources like water, soil, and air. And of course, there we address the protection of soil as well. So this is an example how we take these specific concerns into account. And now you have an idea what the second big step is we are taking on national level. And the third one, that is really the heart of the CAP strategic plan, will be drawn up soon. It's the so-called interventions. The interventions is a technical term for the abstract measures you're finally taking to reach the objectives in the end. And as I mentioned before, we are having a structured process where you take in all the stakeholders that are of importance at national level, and also the Länder in Germany are doing events in their field as well to have input in our documents. What is really a big challenge for us in Germany is that we are doing this strategic plan at federal level for the first time. In the former periods under the CAP, it was separated, that we had for the rural areas, the so-called, and in total the second pillar of the CAP, it was only the Länder drawing up programs at their level, and for the direct payment, it was done on national level by legislative acts. So now we have this big challenge to draw up a CAP strategic plan as a novum for Germany as a whole. So this is really a big challenge, and I also want to mention under ecological aspects, for example, the plan has to run through a strategic and environmental assessment as well. So we have lots of further accompanying measures to improve the CAP strategic plan so that we reach a good result, and our deadline to hand in the plan is by the end of 2022. So and then the Commission goes over it, and it will come into force just as I'm coming to the end. It will come into force by the 1st January 2023. Then, so these are this is my input so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, I want to go to Fabio Pierangeli, because unfortunately something urgent has come up and he has to leave us in a moment. But I wanted to, we wanted to actually get a dialogue going between Fabio and Roberta from Italy, the farmer from Italy. So Roberta, I'd like to ask you, I know that you've prepared a question that you want to ask Fabio. So I'd like to put the two of you together. And if Roberta, if you could ask your question to Fabio, and Fabio, if you could give us a short answer, and then I have another question for you before we go. Roberta, your microphone is muted. Unmute yourself.
Okay.
There you go.
Ok. Allora, la domanda è complessa, ma è la risposta anche. Mi chiedevo questo, in un'ottica di un approccio complessivo e globale all'agricoltura e alle politiche sostenibili, raccogliere gli input dei piccoli agricoltori, e da questo punto di vista massima disponibilità da parte mia, che mi ergo a rappresentante della categoria, a raccontare le istanze di chi quotidianamente vive giorno per giorno una determinata realtà e quindi sa poi alla fine di cosa ha bisogno per potersi migliorare. Sarebbe opportuno, secondo me, considerare anche nell'ambito o nell'ottica di favorire la competitività e quindi migliorare la qualità delle produzioni, perché l'obiettivo è sempre quello, non è soltanto economico, tenere in considerazione anche la questione dell'abbattimento dei costi, e mi riferisco in particolare al costo del lavoro. Vero è che parliamo di piccole imprese, la maggior parte delle quali sono a conduzione familiari, ma diciamo, l'impatto che il costo del lavoro e quindi dell'acquisizione di manodopera ha su piccole realtà è importante, sono in determinati casi devastanti, e ridurre i costi e quindi il costo del lavoro dall'altro punto di vista servirebbe anche a ridurre il rischio di lavoro nero o lavoro in nero, quindi parliamo anche di tutela dei diritti credo che sia un elemento da tenere in considerazione nell'ambito anche di un'analisi SWOT. Mi piace il riferimento fatto dalla signora tedesca. Grazie.
Allora, Vado io, Aminda? Ok, innanzitutto Roberta, grazie mille per gli spunti di riflessione e gli stimoli, sono mirati e lucidissimi. Quello del costo del lavoro chiaramente è una questione innanzitutto che riguarda politiche nazionali. In prima istanza, quindi con leve fiscali chiaramente, ma non si risolve solo lì. Allora, noi per esempio all'inizio della programmazione provammo anche provocatoriamente a proporre una distribuzione degli aiuti del primo pilastro sulla base della forza lavoro. Perché secondo noi il pagamento a ettaro è distorsivo e va soprattutto a beneficio di grandi aziende, grandi dimensioni, e non risolve quella dicotomia diciamo che è classica negli articoli scientifici 80-20, quindi il 20% delle aziende che prende l'80% dei pagamenti. Questo, se si vede la distribuzione della terra, anche la terra è distribuita 80-20, quindi non si risolve questo problema. Ma al di là di questo tentativo negoziale che vede l'Italia insieme a pochi altri paesi, perché abbiamo una caratteristica noi, per quanto un'agricoltura molto avanzata, la forza lavoro in agricoltura è importante. Questa cosa si riscontra in pochi altri paesi. Quindi la questione va risolta innanzitutto con leve fiscali nazionali, e poi non si esaurisce solo lì, perché vanno create le condizioni. Allora, questo del costo del lavoro, trovando le risorse, in realtà il Ministero se ne porta, questo è un aspetto che deve tenere conto nel piano strategico, questo sono d'accordo. Però vanno create le condizioni utilizzando magari gli strumenti del secondo pilastro, lavorando poi con le associazioni, lavorando con le organizzazioni e va sensibilizzato. Chiaramente la questione è la competitività rispetto agli altri settori, agli altri paesi, soprattutto extracomunitari. E qui è la sfida poi verso chiaramente la Commissione che ha la leadership in questo. Noi quando chiediamo degli impegni agli agricoltori, dovremmo essere altrettanto bravi e di solito lo facciamo, ma non sempre è fattibile, di chiedere agli paesi importatori, ai paesi che esportano in Unione Europea, condizioni altrettanto, criteri altrettanto alti in termini di ambiente e di dignità del lavoro. Se la sostenibilità la guardiamo sempre, che non è soltanto ma è economica, sociale e ambientale, ecco, questa cosa andrebbe declinata anche nei trattati commerciali. Avere un trattato commerciale che ci tutela in questo significa giocare su un campo uguale per tutti, no? Avere paesi che possono importare da noi fregandosene di condizioni del lavoro, tra l'altro con un costo del lavoro anche più basso, quindi già è difficile, però se poi anche le condizioni fanno dumping sociale, dumping ambientale, diventa complicato, e quindi si creano quelle distorsioni dentro casa che vanno chiaramente contrastate. Politicamente è un aspetto di grande rilievo e di interesse della ministra. Io non sono di diretto collaborazione degli uffici, sono un tecnico del Ministero, però è uno degli aspetti più di interesse, e rientra tra le questioni che di nuovo la Commissione ci spingerà giustamente un elemento da inserire nel piano strategico. Piano strategico che nell'ambito delle SWOT che sono state redatte e condivise con... Chiedo scusa.
Sorry, I'm going to
chiudo.
try and ask you to conclude.
Dimmi, scusa, ho concluso, scusami.
Okay, thank you very much. I did have other questions for you, but I'm conscious that you have to go and deal with this emergency, so I'm going to let you go. We did want to know how Italy is making sure that the farm to fork objective is going to be included in the national strategic plan, but I'm sure that that's a long thing, and I don't want to take your time up anymore. So we will let you go. Thank you for participating, and I hope the emergency gets organized and sorted out very quickly. Thank you.
Aminda, thank you
yes.
very much, and sorry, purtroppo mi hanno chiamato dall'asilo e devo prendere per protocollo, devo riprendere il piccolo, quindi chiedo scusa. Arrivederci a tutti, grazie mille, grazie Roberta e arrivederci.
Of course. Good luck.
Ciao Aminda, incrociamo le dita.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've had Roberta asking Fabio a question. Amadei also has a question for Gisela, and then I'm going to go straight to your questions, and then we're going to have a little poll a little bit later on. But Amadei, would you like to put your question to Gisela?
Yes, thank you. So I would have like a lot of questions, but I try only to have one, and I would like to have a short, clear answer. Why do we farmers in Europe receive a lot of subsidies, which comes from tax money to produce cheap food? The food in Germany is as cheap as it has never been before in history. The average of German people spend only about 10% of their income on food. Why are we farmers dependent on subsidies to survive? Would it not be better to get a higher income for our products, for good, healthy food, so that farmers wouldn't have to get subsidies for no achievement?
Okay, Gisela?
Yeah, thanks, Amadei, for this really interesting question. I agree that some food should be more expensive and producers should be rewarded for higher environmental ambitions. However, I think it's the consumer's choice which food he or she buys. In Germany, we see an increasing demand, for example, for organic food. But in the end, it's always up to the purse of the consumer, whether he's willing to buy the price for the quality. Also, in the CAP strategic plan, we describe these demands of the society for higher quality, for example, under regional or organic or non-GMO food perspective, or taking into account animal welfare. I think, as you said, that the support should not be on cheap food. As you're probably aware, the basic income support, it's not related to certain crops or so in Germany. There are no coupled subsidies in Germany, but the basic income support is handed out to conventional as well as organic farmers. Of course, if you run an organic farm, it's more expensive related to the same area, as you don't use pesticides and have other restrictions. So I think as a perspective, the introduction of the eco schemes under the coming CAP is a chance for organic farmers. Their higher environmental ambitions can be compensated through this new measurement. And we have already had under the running CAP, and that will go on under the new CAP as well, the possibility of agriculture, environmental or climate measures under the second pillar. And also here, organic farmers can get special support. if you don't want any subsidies, as I heard a bit from your statement, that of course is a change to a completely new system. I think from a pragmatic point of view, it's you always try to improve the system at stake, and I think we have a good perspective with a cap to come to improve things a bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amadei. Thank you for putting that question. I'm now going to go straight to some questions from the public because already time is running away from us. So we have a question from an anonymous attendee who says, should the Common Agricultural Policy work together and finance those organizations that are already working on these subjects? In other words, increase network between the small producers, promote knowledge and expertise sharing, connect the farmers while promoting and enhancing those that make right choices in terms of environment, social and economic sustainability. We've not heard anything from the Commission for a while. Perhaps you would like to jump in, yes?
Yes, thanks, Linda. That's a very good question, in fact, and it's also what we are trying to do. So there is a network. Currently, it's called the Rural Development Network, but we're turning it into a Common Agricultural Policy Network, which is really trying to link all the actors that are working on the challenges of agriculture and policy and rural development. So that is one way of networking, cooperating. Another thing which I would like to highlight is the possibilities to support cooperation between actors, and in particular cooperation in the context of the European Innovation Partnership. So the idea there is that new ideas, knowledge, innovations, we would like them to be applied on the ground. And as I said before, innovation can be any new way of going about farming. And through this measure, we like to stimulate that researchers, people from extension agencies, trial farms, as well as farmers themselves, work together, try things out and learn. We really, this is currently a program that is running, and we really hope that this will be expanded more in the new programming cycle of the agricultural policy, in the new CAP strategic plans.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to go straight to the next question, which is from Iris Flamand. And she has a question for Amadei and Roberta. The question is, besides bringing agroecology under the attention via European and national policies, how would you like to raise awareness and attention among consumers to buy food originating from your farms, e.g. from slow food farmers? I don't know who would like to answer that first.
Let's start with Roberta.
Roberta?
Eccomi. Allora, io penso che il cibo è anche salute. Come si può interloquire con i consumatori? Bisogna anche saperlo raccontare. E la comunicazione, dove non si ha la possibilità di parlare direttamente con i propri interlocutori, con i propri, diciamo, consumatori o clienti. Quindi anche la comunicazione diventa un pezzo importante del nostro lavoro. Però deve essere una comunicazione che sappia raccontare, così come un po' le etichette narranti dei presidi fanno, esattamente le storie che ci sono dietro i prodotti, tutte le caratteristiche, le qualità, le scelte di vita e di lavoro che compiamo ogni giorno.
Amadei?
Yeah, Roberta said some important things, and I just want to add a little bit. It's important that the farmer has the dialogue with the customers. How can he do it? You know, I have a lot of other farmers, children, mothers, and their children come on the farm. They can get the value of how to farm organically here in Germany. They get the eggs from the chicken. They harvest some carrots with me, and go to the sheeps and touch them and see how some vegetables are growing. You know, this is one side. Like if you are open person, if you like to go with groups on your field, you should do and show, because they get a total different point of view how food get produced, especially for children. The other thing I do is like I'm in a good contact with a lot of small restaurants. I have small clients, organic shops in Munich, and I always communicate with the chef, like the cook himself, you know. The small restaurants, they are able to say, okay, this vegetable is grown 25 kilometers in front of Munich. I know the farmer, I has been there, I know the animals, and they write it in their menu. So people who go in this restaurant for dinner, they see, okay, this carrot comes from organic farmer Mowgli. So they get a totally different point of this food, what they eat, you know? And then they are able to, on the weekend, to sit in their car or come with their train and ride down to Moos-Inning and check out my farm. So this is really important. When people see this, also farmers who are open, bring this like in pictures on social media, Instagram or whatever, and show what we do. Show the people what farmers really do. Not only grow wheat and corn and have bulls, there are also other farmers who produce other things, and gardeners and people who do, for example, my milk, my flour or my pasta, small factories here in the region who make this food change from here to the restaurant or to my bakery in like 50 kilometers. We should be all open to talk to the public about this, that people and customers get another relationship to the food we produce as organic farmers.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it's a way of creating that network that we've been hearing about as well. Okay, thank you very much indeed. We've got the last question from Maria Leonelli, and she says, how can we replicate the advocacy experience of the European Office to influence national policies? I think I'd like to get Francesco and Marta to answer this. Francesco, would you like to go first?
In realtà lo facciamo già, nel senso che è in diretto raccordo con l'ufficio di Slow Food Europa, quindi con tutti coloro che lavorano a livello europeo. Noi siamo presenti all'interno di una coalizione italiana, la coalizione Cambiamo Agricoltura, che ha come obiettivo il monitoraggio della costruzione della nuova PAC e nello stesso tempo un'attività di interlocuzione con il Ministero sui piani strategici nazionali. Avrei voluto parlare di questo anche con Fabio, però lui stesso ci ha detto che non era l'interlocutore giusto, non essendo a diretto contatto con gli uffici che si occupano concretamente e quotidianamente, ma noi stiamo cercando di diciamo far comprendere l'importanza che anche Fabio ha citato a un certo punto, l'importanza di avere un'interlocuzione diretta con le associazioni che si occupano di ambiente, di agricoltura a livello italiano, in modo da dare il nostro contributo per costruire un piano strategico nazionale che tenga conto, diciamo, delle esigenze di una agricoltura estremamente differenziata.
Aggiungo solo pochissimo a quello che ha detto Francesco, ne approfitto, ne parlo in italiano. Così come in Italia, per esempio Slow Food fa parte in Germania della coalizione Meine Landwirtschaft, che raccoglie, unisce diverse organizzazioni a livello tedesco, e altresì esistono altre organizzazioni a livello nazionale come Pour Notre PAC in Francia e così via, che si mobilitano e si coordinano per avere un impatto a livello nazionale. Ci ho detto, un evento proprio come quello di oggi, infatti è stato fatto a braccetto tra il nostro ufficio di Bruxelles e i nostri contatti, i nostri colleghi a livello nazionale, proprio per creare questo spazio di dialogo. Quindi è già questa una replicazione del lavoro fatto insieme, del lavoro di advocacy.
Okay, thank you. I'm afraid the time has run away with us. We've actually had a last question that's come in, but unfortunately we don't have time to take it. So Anna from Poland, thank you for sending in the question, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to do that, because I do want to run just a really quick final poll, because we've heard about the fact that these national plans are being drawn up, and so we want to know whether you're interested in getting involved. And here is the question: do you want to get more involved in your government's drafting of the National Strategic Plan for the CAP? And the options you have are: yes, I'll do some research. Yes, I'd like to offer my ideas. Yes, but I don't know how to get involved. And no, I'm going to leave it to the Ministry of Agriculture. So we'll just leave you a couple of seconds to do that, because obviously we're trying to, we want to get the voice of the small scale farmers heard, a wide variety of voices putting into this strategic plan. So we're hoping that you have been stimulated by these discussions and want to get involved too. I think we'll close the polling now. Thank you. Okay, we have yes, I would like to offer my ideas as the winning one at 48%. Great. We do have some people saying yes, but I don't know how to get involved. Just a quick word. I would say that you should probably contact obviously your depending on who you're from or what sector you're from, either your national farmers organizations. You could contact Slow Food, who could also help you in your country to have your voice heard, and you can of course contact the national ministries. I was going to ask Fabio to tell us how he could get how people could get involved in Italy. I don't know, Gisela, could you tell us how people can get involved in Germany in a phrase, how they can find out? Okay, your microphone is not on, but if you contact the Ministry of Agriculture, I'm sure that they will be able to show you the path as to how you can get involved in there. So thank you for taking part in the polls. We're going to have to leave the event here. Before you go off to do other things, please do fill in a quick feedback survey directly after the event. It won't take more than 5 minutes and will help us judge how useful you find these events and to make any changes if we need them for the future. And to conclude, on behalf of the organisers at Slow Food, I'd like to thank all of today's speakers. Thank you also to the interpreters to enable us to understand each other. Thank you to Irene for her visual summaries, and thank you to the technicians behind the screen. And last but not least, a big thank you to you, the audience. We really appreciate you spending the time to log in and follow us today, to listen hard, answer polls, and send in questions. We wish all EU member states the best of luck in writing their national strategy plans, and we hope that everyone who's listening will find a way to get their voices heard in that. And hopefully the process will draw up plans that are greener and leaner and going in the right direction, considering the voices of small-scale farmers of all kinds. And with that, I now bring this event to a close.
The future of our planet is decided at the table, in our daily food choices. What do we know about what we eat? How do we choose? Where do we buy it? You can make a difference and contribute to a future where everyone has access to food that is good. Eating must be a pleasure for everyone. We all have a right to food that is healthy, natural, fresh, and seasonal. Clean. Being aware helps us to choose food that is good for our health and the health of our planet. Fair. Knowing our food means making choices that are fair to us, to the producers, and to future generations. Slow Food has been working for over 30 years to defend biodiversity and fight the climate crisis by promoting good, clean, and fair food for all. common good. Go to donate.slowfood.com/en and follow us at terramadreselunadelgusta.com.